Overtime!
So there I was, minding my own business, just strolling through the Claw forums, not a care in the world. And what do I come across but this thread with from a new forums member who's got 4 machines that they're looking to sell, 3 working machines, 1 non-working machine. They're looking for some help, looking for some advice on what to do. So, being the nice guy that I am, I take a look and see if I can help them out at all. So they've got 3 working games. The 3 working games were they had the Combat Tribes in a Data East cabinet. They had a 2-player NBA Jam conversion kit also in a Data East cabinet, and they had like Capcom Bowling or something like that. So, I'm not really interested in any of those games. But then they had this non-working game, and I'm looking at it. I'll show you. They only had 2 pictures of it. I'll show you one sort of right here. Looking at this thing, it's the IREM Skins game, which is like a JAMA conversion golf game. Not really interesting to me. And I'm looking at this cabinet. I'm like, what is this thing? What was it originally? It looks a little bit like a gyrus, but it's definitely not a gyrus. It's really kind of strange. And then there's the only other picture they had was this one, which is like a zoomed in shot of the control panel. And I'm trying to make heads or tails of it. And I really had, no idea. And then, 2 things happened that really changed my perspective. And I became really interested in this thing all of a sudden. The first thing was another channel member suggested something that it might be, a couple different options. And if they were right, this would definitely be something that I would want, at least what the cabinet was originally. And then the seller says, hey, I'm in Maryland, about an hour away from you, Charlie. Why don't you come on up and take a look? So we, took the conversation offline, had a little bit of back and forth. I gave them some advice on how to sell the other games, which they were able to do for what I thought was a pretty good price that they got for it. And then, we negotiated a little bit back and forth on this one, and we made a deal for me to pick up this non-working machine. So I'll keep the identity of what this game was originally a little bit, mysterious for a moment. But in this episode, we're going to go and pick that game up. We're going to bring it home. We're going to rip it open, see what's going on. And I've got yet another restoration project in the queue right now. So if that sounds like fun, why don't we head in the car and get rolling? Let's go! All right, we're all loaded up. That was super easy. Super nice sellers. Everything went great. And I'm really excited about this. Any clues? Any any idea what this might be? It's probably not what you think. And this was the same pickup that I got that NARC for a buddy of mine. So that's really cool. But that won't be in my possession for very long. We'll be shipping it out to him. But this right here will be a rather interesting restoration project, and I think quite a unique one. But I stopped for a bit because I have to get some more dollies. So let me pop into Harbor Freight, grab some of those, and then we'll head home. I'm excited. All right, here we go. Off the truck and in the garage, and boy, is my voice shot today. And I promise you, it has absolutely nothing to do with me impersonating a certain 1980s WWF superstar. Every tree in Virginia is seemingly in bloom right now, and in between takes here, I'm coughing up a lung, so that's why my throat is all sore and shot. It has nothing to do with the Macho Man, has nothing to do with doing 2 live streams this week. One for the monthly members only live stream and one for the Coin Jam podcast. But anyway, the show must go on. I'm going to power through and look at this thing. Have you figured out what it is yet? Even though it says the IREM Skins game right here,
That's not what this is. This is something that's a lot more special than some, JAMA conversion game. We see this sort of crazy $100 bill cardboard bezel. There should actually be no artwork around this monitor on the bezel. Come down here, we have this kind of strange control panel setup. It's a little bit reminiscent of like Gyrus, this kind of contained box sort of area, but it's not a Gyrus, it's not Centauri. The cabinet's actually quite a bit smaller than a Gyrus. Definitely a different sort of setup. Coming down here, we've got an over-under coin door, but it's kind of offset to the right a little bit. There's a speaker grill right here, and this thing has been covered with this, like, I don't know, it's like this texture paint, fleck paint sort of thing. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, over-under coin door, we see we have a hole that was drilled for a lockout bar, but that's no problem. I think the lower part of this cabinet was originally black, so that'll be pretty easy to repair. Coming along the side here, we'll show the profile view, sort of a swept back kind of design. It reminds me a little bit almost of Tempest, like a small Tempest. This is almost a cabaret size cabinet. Some people do consider this the cabaret version of this game. Coming around to the back, we see the back door is sort of beat up. This thing has obviously spent some time off of the cabinet and must have fallen over and been kicked around, smashed up a little bit there. But otherwise, this cabinet is in pretty good shape. I don't think it's seen much moisture or really any real cabinet damage to speak of. Yeah, and that paint's going to be something to take off. I think originally the side art was like a vinyl, big vinyl print on the whole side. At least I'm hoping that's what it was. Got maybe a scratch here. It's just the outline of some old artwork. Can't quite tell. There are these screw holes in the side. I don't know if these were added at some point to kind of reinforce the cabinet or what, but there's nothing in them now. Coming down here, we can see some of the white border, I guess the white vinyl or whatever sticker that was on the side kind of poking through. Got this corner down here is blown out a little bit, but that'll be relatively easy to repair. So, have you sort of figured out what this game was originally? It's definitely been converted a couple of times. One clue right here that might be helpful is on one of these coin reject buttons we see an Atari logo, but not on the other. So, open up down here, and we've got a coin bucket with some bits and bobs in there as the wind comes blowing through. Oh, that looks like it's the cam from a cam lock. So there's that. We'll drop that in the coin bucket. But not much else going on inside the lower coin door. The upper one is locked, and I don't have the key, so I don't know if I'll be able to reach through the back and unlock it, unlatch it, or maybe we'll have to drill it. But let's get set up on the tripod, and we'll take a look at what's going on inside the cabinet. All right, on the back of the cabinet, there are some stickers up here, but they've been painted over. I can kind of see a serial number 126925, and there's some printing, but it's been painted over with black, but the serial number's embossed, and there's another sticker here, so nothing really telling there. And then we've got this sort of, I don't know if this is metal, piece of metal here with a couple of holes that have threads in them, so I don't know what this is all about. Maybe this is a repair of a piece of wood that was broken here. And then just looking down the back of the cabinet, we have a power switch right there and a vent at the bottom, and then a little spot where the power cord would stick out. But let's get this back door off and reveal what game this actually is. So I'm very, very excited to restore this game. It's definitely not going to be the cheapest thing to restore. But when it's all said and done, I think I will have scored an amazing deal and a very uncommon game. So, come on. I think that's the only two. Yep, those are the only two screws holding it on. And this back door is actually really messed up. I think it's actually been broken in half and then repaired. If we see what's going on the inside of the cabinet, nothing too revealing yet. But if I turn this back door around and show you sort of again, yeah, I think it's been repaired. See all that glue and whatever. But if I come down here, we've got our original back door sheet, and look at that. What does that say right there? Charlie Chuck's Food Fight. This is a food fight cabinet. And I know what you're thinking, right? This is not what a food fight looks like, Charlie. And you're right. This is not the normal Atari upright food fight. This is actually an Irish food fight. So this cabinet was made by Atari Ireland, and I'm sure that's probably what this sticker says, you know, Tipperary, Ireland. I think it even says something FFT for food fight right there. Yeah, this is actually an Atari Ireland food fight cabinet built by Atari Ireland in Tipperary. And yeah, this is an Irish food fight, or at least it was originally. It's been converted a couple of times. You know, if you go and watch, you know, Todd Tuckey, TNT Amusements, I think he's owned a couple of these over the years, the Irish food fight. So there's a couple of videos on his channel about it. But yeah, Food Fight is a pretty incredible game. You know, very much beloved by collectors. It was sort of released during the video game crash, and there really wasn't that many of them because it didn't do that great. And I think there's even fewer of the Irish version. So, you know, this is my second Atari Ireland cabinet. The first one being the Kangaroo. I've got an Irish Kangaroo. I did a restoration series on that last year. And really excited to do a similar sort of project with this food fight. And you know, Atari set up that factory in Ireland to serve the European market. And I guess as the video game crash sort of got worse and worse, you know, and the cabinets weren't selling, I guess in Europe too, Atari used these essentially as Euro-style cabarets, right? And so they built the upright version of the, you know, Kangaroo and the Food Fight and Gravatar and Dig Dug. And they had these they were sold in the US too as like European or Irish versions of the cabinet. A little bit smaller, a little bit you know, easier to find space for. Similar somewhat to a cabaret, although in the case of Dig Dug, I think there was a normal cabaret, sort of similar to the Tempest cabaret. We'll come in here and take a look at what's going on. I guess the monitor would normally come out of the front, and this is probably not the original monitor, I'm guessing. If we take a look here and see, you know, there's some telltale signs that this is actually a Nintendo monitor. And if we come up here, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see, but it says right there, Nintendo of America, made in Japan. And this is a 20Z2AW, so sort of a later variant of the 20EZ. So a Sanyo monitor, which is pretty good. You know, I like these monitors. I've actually got, you know, quite a few extra ones over here for future Nintendo projects. But I'm guessing this is a replacement monitor. I don't know if the original went bad. Maybe it was a Matsushita, which is notorious for having issues. But we can see, you know, they've kind of hacked in the video cable here. And one thing that's also weird is this, you know, Sanyo monitor is a 100-volt monitor. It's not a 120, you know, sort of American style monitor. I guess the AC power in Japan is typically, that service is typically 100 volts, whereas in the US it's a 120. So you need a step-down transformer, and fortunately down here they are running. I'm assuming this is a Japanese step-down transformer. It says Kaga Denshi on it, and yeah, there's sort of lugs here. It looks like for I don't know, is that 117? Maybe that's the input side. But hopefully it's wired up correctly. We'll test all this out before firing it up. Of course, we have our JAMA board here. This is where the original Food Fight board would have been. You see these sort of wooden kind of rails that it sits on. And then we just have this, looks like a 2-board stack. It is JAMA, it says JAMA right there. So we'll be getting rid of this thing, this golf game. If anyone is interested in it, let me know. And yeah, we'll be able to open up the coin door, no problem there, by undoing that cam lock. And then we have a switching power supply that's been thrown in here. This is obviously not original. Down there where that foam block is where the AR2 would be. And I think the Food Fight cabinet used an AR2-04 variant for Food Fight. So yeah, very, very excited. You know, and like I said, this is going to be a relatively expensive restoration project for a couple of reasons. The Food Fight PCBs are not cheap, although I was able to score a pretty good deal. I've actually got one on its way to me in the mail, should arrive early next week, a working Food Fight PCB that I got from Jeff on Facebook. So Jeff, if you're out there watching this, thank you very much. So even though I did get a great deal on it from Jeff, that PCB still cost a pretty penny, and I actually have been selling a bunch of spare parts and old marquees and whatever on the Claw forums. I'll put a link down below if you want to go check out what I have for sale. You know, all proceeds from that are going to go to, you know, buying the parts that I need for this cabinet. In addition to the PCB, I'm going to need a Food Fight joystick, which is very expensive. Now, there are reproductions of them. Arcade Jason makes one that's sold on Arcade Shop. I don't know. I haven't heard if it's that good or not. You know, I think Jason typically makes good stuff, but if you've got one of those reproduction Arcade Shop, Arcade Jason, Food Fight joysticks, let me know what you think of it. Or if you've got an original one for sale, you know, hit me up and let me know. Now, the main artwork that I'm going to need is a marquee up here. There actually is no bezel artwork for the Irish Food Fight, and I'm going to need a control panel overlay. Fortunately, Arcade Art Shop in the UK, Ollie, he does repro the marquee and the control panel overlay, so I should be good for that. I got to figure out what to do with the side art, though. I don't think anyone has necessarily ever reproduced the side art. And looking here, there's sort of this like staggered design. It kind of almost reminds me of like the Final Fight artwork outline, if you can sort of see that. So I don't know what to make of that. I don't know if we have, you know, paint on top of a conversion sticker on top of the original side art, but you know, we're really not going to know until we strip it. But I am not optimistic that I'll be able to recover the original side art, just given how thick and textured this paint is, and who knows what's underneath it. You know, we do have some damage, but if the artwork was perfect underneath here, I could probably just sort of repair this with white, but we'll figure it out. Maybe what I could do is have someone like custom print the side art. You know, I think it's very similar to the upright Food Fight side art, except it doesn't have like the fancy border or everything. I think it's scaled down a little bit, but we'll see. But yeah, the artwork, you know, probably won't be the most expensive part. It's the PCB that was kind of pricey. The joystick is going to be expensive, whether I get a reproduction or an original. I am going to need to track down a transformer block. You know, the sort of the brick at the bottom of the cabinet. I'm going to have to track down a AR204 power PCB and some kind of wiring harness solution. I don't think there's ever been a Food Fight JAMA adapter. So I can't just use a JAMA wiring harness. I have heard that people have taken Centipede or Dig Dug wiring harnesses and kind of modified them to be Food Fight. I think it has those games, the pinouts and wiring share some similarity with Food Fight, so you have to kind of modify it a little bit, but it's a good starting point. So maybe I'll do that. But if you've got a Food Fight harness sitting around or any of the parts that I need, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. So I think what I want to do at this point is we'll get the sort of front door kind of opened up. We'll take a deeper look at what's going on. And I actually want to fire this thing up. You know, the seller sold this as, you know, not working. So I'm assuming they tried powering it up and couldn't get anything. But we'll take a deeper investigation and see what's going on. We'll test the power supply, see what's going on with the monitor. Maybe it's playing blind. Maybe it's, you know, there's a fuse out or something. But yeah, let me get the tripod set up for that, and then we'll see what's going on there. Okay, I was able to reach through from the back of the cabinet and loosen the cam on the cam lock on the upper coin door, and I turned the cam so we can open up the coin door, no problem here. And we see we've got our normal, what is this, coin controls coin door set up here with the pork chops and the coin reject buttons and everything. And again, going back and watching Todd Tuckey's videos, he pointed out that all of the Atari Ireland cabinets have these blue credit switches on the coin door, which I guess is interesting. We've got a fair amount of rust right here on the bottom of the inside of the coin door, so and I can see some rust poking through here, so that's no problem. Well, let's get this reject button out. So we'll have to repair that. Oh, we do have I'll show you here. We do have a coin counter, and we'll take a look and see what it says right there. What does that say? 137,448. We'll ask Professor Pac-Man to do the math for us, and assuming that's not a rolled over coin counter, that made a decent amount of money, at least at some point. So, and the way that we open this up, again, I learned from watching Todd Tuckey's videos. There are 2 latches on the inside for the coin door, which is pretty normal. But then there are supposed to be 2 hex bolts holding on the through here. So this is all this kind of underside piece is all part of the control panel, and it looks like those were removed already. And I'm kind of curious if this glass bezel is going to fall if I remove this thing. So let me reach in here and see find where the latches are. They're on the front, or sort of on the back, excuse me. All right, and where's the other one? There it is. And let's tilt this down, and hopefully, yeah, the glass wants to just fall. All right, we kind of pull this out of the way so it doesn't drop and fall and smash into a billion little pieces. Okay, and we've got our cardboard bezel that wants to fall off too, or does it? It's kind of taped in to the bottom. And let me show you something kind of interesting real quick. So, obviously this is a bezel for the IRM Skins game, and it says hit the ball and change clubs, right? And I guess it's you're supposed to be betting money on each hole. But if we flip this thing around, this was a different game at one point. This was Akari Warriors, and yeah, they had rotated the monitor to make this a vertical game. Was Food Fight a vertical or horizontal game? I can't remember. But for whatever reason, they taped, and maybe it's because the Skins game bezel's maybe too thin, but they taped, you can sort of see these 2 layers. They taped the new conversion bezel to the old conversion bezel, but yeah, at some point this was an Akari Warriors, which that's kind of interesting. And so, maybe this has been converted 3 times. So it was originally Food Fight, right? And then it was Akari Warriors at some point, and then it was IRM Skins game. But was it also potentially a Nintendo game at some point, right? Thus the Nintendo monitor. Who can know for sure? And I'm just kind of looking here to see if there's anything else sort of hanging on, and there's not. Got a bunch of loose bolts here. Some of these are not original. And, oh, I guess the reason why, a little bit of damage here. I guess the reason why the support bolts for the upper part of the coin, or the control panel, weren't screwed in is because there's some damage here. I guess this is where that thing would have held on. We got one over here too, so this seems weird. And like the shelf looks like maybe it was added on with these brackets. Are those original? I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at some photos online and see, how to repair this on either side. I guess it's not technically necessary, but I'm gonna want to do something so that I can mount it the correct way. A little bit more damage down here and here. Not sure what's up with that. Yeah, and maybe is Food Fight a vertical game or a horizontal game? Maybe this shelf is where the monitor was originally. You can see that, yeah, this wood looks a little bit different. And this mounting is definitely like homemade, right? So screwed in here and here. And then I don't know what's going on, screwed into the side of the cabinet. And this piece is like, falling off, right? So there's a screw missing here. So there's really only three screws holding the thing in. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. We've got some kind of burn on this monitor, and it looks like maybe a a leaderboard. So maybe it's burned from the skins game with like a scorecard for playing golf or whatnot. We can see down here, this control panel has definitely been hacked up quite a bit. This is originally where the specialized food fight joystick would have been mounted with this large hole. And I think maybe these two buttons are the fire buttons or throw buttons from food fight. And then we would have had two volcano buttons over here. And unfortunately, they replaced those volcano buttons with just some normal kind of push buttons, some micro switch buttons. So we'll have to repair this control panel pretty significantly, fill those holes, and track down some volcano buttons. But yeah, and we've just got some, I guess, 8-way micro switch joysticks here. So nothing too crazy going on. Looks like there's Bondo in the threads of this button. So who knows? Was it glue, or is that glue of some kind? Kind of nuts. But yeah, I'm really kind of surprised by this monitor. The fact that it's a Sanyo Nintendo monitor is just sort of strange. So let's button this thing up and go take a look at the back and start testing it and see if we can get some sort of life out of this machine. Okay, I pulled the power supply setup kind of out of the way just so that we can sort of see what's going on and make heads or tails of it. So here's the main power cord coming into the cabinet. They bypassed the power switch that was originally here. It comes in, the ground goes straight to the switching power supply, which is a Elco KGD 1023. The live and neutral wires go through a couple of fuses here, which we can check real quick with my multimeter. So that one's good, and that one's good. At least the fuses are not shorted, or the fuses are not blown. So comes through the fuses, goes through, and it kind of branches off on the fuse block. One set of wires goes to the isolation transformer, which does step it down, and the input's going on the 117, so it's probably going to get a little bit higher input than that. And then the power cord for the monitor is hooked up to the 100 volt output, so we'll pull this out just to disconnect power from the monitor so that we can test that voltage before sending it there. And then also the other set of wires off of the fuse block goes through a line filter and then into the switching power supply, which produces +5, -5, and +12. And this wiring is a mess. There are electrical tape splices everywhere. There are loose wires like here, and in a couple different places. There's a bunch of wires that look like they should be going to the coin door that are cut down there. Those wires there are all cut. So yeah, but why don't we give it the what for? I'm going to disconnect the edge connector. And yeah, oh, it's all corroded. Look at that. You might not be able to see it, but that has got all kinds of corrosion on the PCB. I don't like that. Yeah, let me clean that up real quick before we fire this bad boy up. Okay, I went ahead and cleaned the edge connector on the PCB. It was corroded something else. And in fact, some of the, I don't know if it was impurities in the gold plating or low quality gold plating that was used on the PCB, but it kind of ate through all the way to the copper. But I got it all cleaned up with a fiberglass pen and some Q-tips and isopropyl and deoxit, and I sprayed a little deoxit into the edge connector housing on the harness. I do have it detached for now. I've got the monitor power disconnected. I've got my multimeter plugged into the monitor power connector. This switching power supply, I don't think it's adjustable. It's got this little hole right here, but there's no knob or dial or anything in there to adjust it, so I'm not sure what we're going to be able to do with that. And really, the only reason I'm doing this is because I'm curious, right? I'm going to end up ripping all of these guts out. I'm going to get rid of the JAMA harness and that PCB and the power supply. I'm going to replace it with the correct original stuff. At least that's my plan. But so I'm just curious. I want to see if this stuff actually works. So I think all I need to do is plug it in and we'll see what goes on, because like I said, the power switch has been bypassed, so there's no power switch on this cabinet. So here we go, plugging it in, 3, 2, 1. And let's see, we got about 111. So I think that should be okay to send to the monitor, even though it's a 100 volt Nintendo monitor. That should be okay. So let's switch to DC volts and see what's going on with the DC voltage from the power supply. So that should be ground, and this should be 5 volts. 5.3, so a little high, but we've got no load on it. This should be 12, 12.86, and negative 5.0 or 7.3. So I'm actually kind of okay with the voltage there. So why don't we plug this? Well, I'm going to unplug the power, turn off the power, and we'll reconnect everything and see if it actually works. So reattach the JAMA edge connector. And again, you might be able to see here, there's a bunch of wires that are cut here. Not every game uses every JAMA connection, so that's probably okay. We'll reconnect the monitor power. And let me hook up my multimeter to the power supply, just so that we can get a real-time sort of view of what it's sending with a load attached. Okay, that should be good. So I'm going to have to run back over here and take a look at what this multimeter says. So you'll see it before I do. We want to see something like around 5 volts right there. So plugging it in and turning it on. 3, 2, 1. That's still a bit high. There's static coming out of the speaker. I got raster on the monitor. Okay. That's a lot higher than I really want the voltage to be. Huh. So powered it on. Let me think about my next move here for a second. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on with this setup. I don't know if it's a PCB issue or a power supply issue or a wiring harness issue. I actually plugged in my 19-in-1 multi-board, JAMA multi-board, and I couldn't get that to boot either. So yeah, not sure what's going on down here, but I'm not too worried about it because I'm going to be ripping all that stuff out anyway. But interestingly, I did connect my TPG to this Nintendo Sanyo monitor, and if we come around to the front, all right, check it out. We have a working monitor. Now the refresh rate is a little bit different, so it's got this black bar that's slowly scrolling off, but this is a fully working monitor. Colors don't look too bad. It looks a little bit better on camera than it does in person. Color balance needs to be adjusted a little bit, but look at that, a nice working monitor. So really excited about getting started with this restoration project. It's not exactly going to be the top of the priority queue, but really looking forward to it. Would love to have a food fight in the collection, and what an interesting food fight to have with this Irish Euro-style Atari Ireland-built food fight cabinet. So yeah, like I said, it's going to be an expensive project. I've got a PCB coming in the mail next week. I need to figure out a joystick and an AR2-04 and a power transformer brick and all that sort of stuff, and a harness. So if you've got any leads on where I can find that sort of thing, please let me know. I'm also selling a bunch of spare parts on Clove to raise funds to buy all that stuff. So if you want to come help me out and maybe get some parts that you need for one of your projects, I'll put a link down in the video description below to that for sale thread. I've been selling a bunch of stuff already. I got to make another trip to the UPS store to get a marquee in the mail. But yeah, if this is your first time, welcome to the channel. I release new videos like this basically every Sunday. Sometimes I'll do a live stream or a short or something like that. In between, we just did the Coin Jam podcast, and I did the monthly members only live stream earlier this week, or last week at this point. If you like this video, leave a like, hit that like button, leave a comment, tell me if you remember a food fight. Have you ever seen one of these Irish food fights in a Euro-style cabinet? Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of these videos. And if you really like what we're doing, hit that join button down below to learn more about what it means to become an Overtime Arcade channel member. You get early access to all new videos, monthly members only live stream. You get access to our private members only Discord, which is a ton of fun. So great way to support the channel, great way to have a lot of fun getting access to those perks. And yeah, I've got a merch shop. You can buy a t-shirt, a hat, things like that. But just watching these videos means a ton to me. So before I lose my voice again, I think I'll wrap it up here. As always, thanks for watching Overtime Arcade. I'm Charlie, and I'll see you next time.
Overtime!